While Detroit's auto giants were busy calculating quarterly profits and attending shareholder meetings, something profound was quietly unfolding in America's industrial heartland. The very companies that built the American dream on four wheels were about to discover that dreams, like empires, can crumble faster than anyone expects. This isn't just another corporate story about missed opportunities or poor leadership decisions. This is the story of how three of America's most iconic companies essentially handed over the keys to America's automotive future, and why that matters far more than most people realize. For over a century, Detroit represented something uniquely American: the power to transform raw ambition into global dominance through sheer industrial might. Ford didn't just build cars, it built the assembly line that revolutionized manufacturing worldwide. General Motors didn't just make vehicles, it created the corporate structure that became the blueprint for American business success. Chrysler, now part of Stellantis, embodied the scrappy American spirit that could compete with anyone, anywhere. Together, they were the Big Three, the industrial trinity that put America on wheels and kept it there for generations. But revolutions have a way of catching even the mightiest off guard, and the electric vehicle revolution proved no exception. While Tesla was busy reinventing what a car company could be, and Chinese manufacturers were quietly building the world's most advanced EV supply chains, Detroit's Big Three were making what may go down as some of the most costly strategic miscalculations in American industrial history. The numbers tell a story that's almost difficult to believe. Ford, the company that once revolutionized global manufacturing, is now projecting losses of $5.5 billion on its electric vehicle operations for 2025 alone. That's not a typo, and it's not an anomaly. Since 2023, Ford has burned through more than $12 billion trying to make electric vehicles work. To put that in perspective, that's more money than many countries spend on their entire annual budgets, all lost in the pursuit of something that should have been achievable for a company with Ford's resources and expertise. But Ford's struggles pale in comparison to what's happening at Stellantis, the corporate entity that now includes what used to be Chrysler. Industry reports suggest the company is losing approximately $50,000 on every electric vehicle it manages to sell. Think about that for a moment.
Every time someone walks into a Stellantis dealership and drives away in an electric vehicle, the company essentially writes a check for the equivalent of a well-equipped pickup truck. This isn't sustainable business. It's corporate hemorrhaging on a scale that would be impressive if it weren't so devastating. Even General Motors, which has shown the most promise among the Big Three, with its electric vehicle sales more than doubling year over year, continues to struggle with the fundamental challenge of making electric vehicles profitable. The company has been forced to repeatedly revise down its production targets, scaling back from ambitious forecasts of up to 300,000 units annually to a more modest 200,000 to 250,000 vehicles. For a company that once produced millions of vehicles annually and dominated global markets, these numbers represent not growth, but managed decline. The market dynamics reveal just how dramatically the landscape has shifted. Tesla, despite facing its own challenges, including political backlash against Elon Musk's government roles and declining sales in key markets, still commands an impressive 46% of the American electric vehicle market. Meanwhile, the Big Three collectively control less than 20% of a market that, by all logic, should have been theirs to lose. Ford's electric vehicle sales plummeted by more than 30% in the second quarter of 2025, while its hybrid sales doubled, signaling what amounts to a strategic retreat from pure electric ambitions. This retreat becomes even more concerning when viewed against the global competitive landscape. In China, electric vehicles have reached a remarkable milestone. They're now cheaper than gasoline-powered cars. While American consumers face electric vehicle prices averaging over $56,000 compared to just over $48,000 for gas-powered alternatives, Chinese consumers enjoy the opposite dynamic. This price inversion didn't happen by accident. It's the result of decades of strategic planning, massive government investment, and a commitment to dominating the technologies that will define transportation's future. Chinese automaker BYD has emerged as a genuine global force, while Detroit's Big Three have essentially lost their status as automotive exporters, retreating to focus primarily on the North American market. Industry experts note that Detroit lacks the technological workforce and expertise that Chinese automakers have developed through years of strategic planning and forced technology transfers. This isn't just about manufacturing costs or labor expenses, it's about fundamental technological capabilities that determine who can innovate and who can only follow. The irony is that Tesla's own vulnerabilities created exactly the kind of market opportunity that Detroit's automakers once dreamed of capturing. Tesla's global deliveries dropped by more than 13% in the second quarter of 2025, marking the company's second consecutive quarterly decline. Much of this decline stems from political backlash against Elon Musk's role heading the Department of Government Efficiency under the current administration. Consumer boycotts and protests at Tesla showrooms worldwide have created the kind of opening that established automakers typically exploit to gain market share. Yet instead of seizing this moment, Ford and Stellantis actually lost market share while Tesla struggled. Only General Motors managed to make meaningful gains, primarily through its Chevrolet Equinox electric vehicle, which has finally emerged as a genuine Tesla competitor. This represents a stunning failure of strategic execution. When your primary competitor is dealing with significant political and reputational challenges, losing market share instead of gaining it suggests problems that go far deeper than simple execution issues. The broader electric vehicle market faces headwinds that compound Detroit's challenges. American EV market share has actually declined from 8% to 7.4% year over year, indicating that the rapid growth phase may be ending just as Detroit was hoping to capitalize on it. The elimination of federal electric vehicle tax credits, scheduled for September 2025, is expected to further dampen consumer demand. Bloomberg NEF has revised down its United States EV adoption forecast by 14 million units through 2030, representing a fundamental shift in market trajectory that catches Detroit's Big Three at their most vulnerable moment. Faced with mounting losses and changing market conditions, Detroit's automakers are executing what can only be described as a strategic retreat from electric vehicle ambitions. Ford has canceled its planned three-row electric SUV, delayed the next-generation F-150 Lightning, and is pivoting heavily toward hybrid technology.
The company now sells approximately twice as many hybrid vehicles as pure electric ones, signaling where it sees its profitable future. General Motors has scaled back its production targets, while Stellantis has delayed major electric vehicle launches in favor of hybrid alternatives. This retreat reflects deeper structural challenges in American automotive manufacturing. The electric vehicle transition isn't just about changing powertrains. It's about fundamentally reorganizing how cars are designed, manufactured, and integrated with digital ecosystems. While Detroit's Big Three excelled in the era when success meant manufacturing scale and distribution networks, the electric vehicle era rewards software integration, battery technology, and rapid innovation cycles where traditional automakers have proven less competitive. The implications extend far beyond corporate boardrooms or quarterly earnings reports. Detroit's struggles represent a fundamental shift in American industrial competitiveness and the country's ability to lead in transformative technologies. For decades, American automotive leadership was taken for granted, assumed to be as permanent as the Great Lakes that surround Motor City. The current situation suggests that assumption was dangerously misplaced. What makes this particularly concerning from a strategic perspective is that automotive manufacturing has always been more than just business. It's been a cornerstone of American industrial and military capability. The factories that built cars in peacetime became the arsenal of democracy during World War II. The supply chains that delivered components to assembly lines created the industrial networks that supported American technological leadership throughout the Cold War. The engineering expertise that developed more powerful engines and more efficient transmissions laid the groundwork for advances in aerospace, defense, and other critical technologies. As Detroit's Big Three retreat from electric vehicle leadership, they're not just conceding market share, they're potentially ceding American leadership in the technologies that will define 21st century transportation, energy storage, and industrial competitiveness. The batteries that power electric vehicles are the same technologies that will determine who leads in grid-scale energy storage, portable electronics, and even military applications. The software that manages electric vehicle performance is closely related to the systems that will control autonomous vehicles, smart cities, and integrated transportation networks.
The global nature of this competition makes Detroit's retreat even more significant. While American companies struggle with electric vehicle profitability, Chinese manufacturers are rapidly expanding their global footprint, building factories in Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. They're not just selling vehicles, they're exporting an integrated approach to electric mobility that includes charging infrastructure, battery technology, and the manufacturing expertise to support it all. This represents the kind of comprehensive industrial strategy that once defined American global leadership. For American workers and communities, Detroit's electric vehicle struggles have immediate, intangible consequences. The transition to electric vehicles requires different skills, different supply chains, and different manufacturing processes. Workers who spent careers mastering internal combustion engine production find their expertise increasingly irrelevant. Communities that built their economies around traditional automotive manufacturing face uncertain futures as companies scale back ambitious electric vehicle plans in favor of overseas production or hybrid alternatives that require less dramatic industrial transformation. The policy implications are equally significant. Federal and state governments have invested billions in electric vehicle incentives, charging infrastructure, and manufacturing support, largely based on the assumption that American companies would lead the transition. If Detroit's Big Three continue their retreat from pure electric vehicle strategies, those investments may primarily benefit foreign competitors who are better positioned to capitalize on American market incentives and infrastructure development. Perhaps most troubling is what Detroit's struggles reveal about American industrial adaptability. The Big Three had every advantage: established manufacturing capabilities, extensive dealer networks, brand recognition, and decades of automotive expertise. They had early access to the same battery technologies, the same electric motors, and the same software capabilities that enabled Tesla's success. They had government support, consumer interest, and market conditions that should have facilitated successful electric vehicle programs. Their collective failure to capitalize on these advantages suggests problems that go beyond simple strategic mistakes or poor execution. It points to deeper issues with American industrial culture, corporate governance, and the ability to manage transformative change in established industries.
These are the same challenges that have affected American leadership in solar panels, wind turbines, telecommunications equipment, and other technologies where early American advantages eventually gave way to more focused international competition. So the real question isn't whether Detroit's Big Three can still win America's electric vehicle race. The evidence suggests that race is already over, decided not by a single dramatic moment, but by years of accumulated strategic miscalculations, financial losses, and missed opportunities. The question now is whether Americans are prepared to accept that the automotive future will be shaped primarily by companies and technologies developed elsewhere, and what that means for American industrial independence, technological leadership, and economic security. The day Detroit lost America's EV race may not have a specific date on the calendar, but its consequences will be measured in decades of American dependence on foreign automotive technology, diminished industrial capability, and the lost opportunity to lead in one of the most significant technological transitions of our time. What do you think this means for America's industrial future, and is there still time to change course?